I would say we can give 2 more minutes. Let's show our message from the lawyers, get that out of the way as we let more people join. And today is going to be, for the most part, just a recap of what's been happening. And at the end, if there's some questions, we will do our best to address them, to answer anything that might come up along the way. All right, Jen, whenever you think it's time, you can pick us off.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Jen, Managing Director, AMA. We're joined today by Kelly Montez and Pat Bates of our board, AMA board. And we're going to start today. Vanessa Stevens, our president, is going to kick us off.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I basically want to take this time to make a lot of acknowledgements and to thank everyone. So Jen, you can move on. Since we established the AMA in 2020, which is now 3 years ago, which is hard to believe, we have grown to be a major voice in the industry and a growing resource for information and for guidance for all of you. We have, it seems, over 1,300 visitors per month to the website, and the page viewing year to date is increasing 25% since last year. Jen gets so many emails from all of you, which we really appreciate that engagement. And we really encourage you to continue to get involved and to send emails. We have over 100 member agencies, so many of you are here today. Thank you. And our renewal rate is basically 100%, 98%. And I think that proves the value that we are really starting to give to all of you. Our partners have increased enormously. We have 35 partners to date, and they span a huge range of industries, and really their partnership is invaluable. They are key in supporting our overhead costs, in driving our initiatives forward, and in exchange, partners are given really invaluable exposure and enhanced visibility on our platforms. There's opportunity for event sponsorship and access to curated selection of programs, resources, and events. If you know anyone who you think could be a good fit to be a partner for the AMA, please send them our way. They can reach out to Jen. Dean is our director of partnerships, and he's incredible and always willing to engage and talk about what benefits we have to offer. With that in mind, we want to really acknowledge some of what we've achieved in this past year. One of the major things, feats, and really was a success we had in amending the New York Fashion Workers Act. In May of 2022, we learned about the bill, and it was moving really quickly through the New York State Senate. And it had really potentially devastating consequences for our community. Because we were already, a couple of years into existence, we were able to act quickly. And with the support of our members and our partners and donations from the industry, we acted really fast. And it was really because of that immediately we could hire a lobbyist, and we had multiple meetings. It was mostly the joint effort between myself and Mary, who's our director of business affairs. And we had over, 18 meetings with senators and assembly members to provide our perspective on the bill. We met with trade organizations, the APA, the 4As, the ANA, to discuss, how damaging it would be not only to us as agency owners, but to our artists, which was really the motivating factor for us. And we wrote and shared a memo of opposition for our community. We met with the sponsor senator and key legislators, and we created a call to action for our community. And all of that, we also proposed new language to amend the bill, and it was all of that that made the success possible. We're pretty sure that it's going to come back to a certain degree. It's not yet been passed, and we will continue to monitor that. But it was our work that resulted in the successful removal of creatives and creative management companies from the bill. So thank you to everyone who supported that and made that possible. We also have focused a lot on programming this past year. Pat, who's been running the programming committee, has done an incredible job. We've established members-only roundtables. We have hosted industry-wide webinars and town halls, and we have presented partner demos, and they have presented webinars. So all of this programming has been a huge engagement factor for us. We had incredible attendance. We had great responses to all of this programming. One of the things, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Jen, you can go to the next slide, sorry. In addition to programming, we held a number of events, including the online AMA Art Seed Benefit Auction, which raised funds. We had an amazing guided walkthrough of the Abaddon show at Gagosian. Thank you to Exposure for putting that together. And we had monthly happy hours in New York and a few in LA, which we will continue to do. And again, thank you to everyone who joined us for those events. It was great to meet so many of you in person and to really just get to experience, you know, being out again. It was great. Let's see. So in parallel to the work that we've been doing in programming and events, we have been very busy, especially of late, updating and establishing resources. We are rolling these out over the course of the coming weeks in preparation for a roundtable where we will review them all in depth. Some of the new initiatives include an estimating checklist, an updated mutual NDA specifically geared towards pitch decks for when you are presenting ideas to clients. We are going to have updates to the universal bid form, including lines for sustainability, stemming directly from a sustainability webinar we had earlier in the year. We are adding to our glossaries and definitions. There's going to be an insurance glossary, which doesn't sound exciting, but is very informative. We're updating the usage glossary. We have a whole new section on HR and operations coming. And this is in response to a lot of questions we get just looking for guidance and support on running a business. And with compliance changes and everything constantly being much more and more nuanced, we put together a number of resources that we think will be really helpful. We've updated the styling terms and conditions template as well. If you have any suggestions for resources that we have not tackled, please feel free to reach out. We are very open to putting anything and everything on the list and considering how we can roll that out. In the year ahead, sorry, I know we're still in the usage section. So one of the things that is actually, I have spent along with Pat and a number of our members, a lot of time considering is a new section dedicated to usage. So following the usage and new media webinar, which was a huge success, we're adding a number of resources to bolster the usage glossary. This includes an FAQ on usage rights and advertising, a comprehensive guide to understanding usage rights and advertising, and a chart of usages. These are all vetted by our lawyers, so we have no antitrust issues in sharing these resources. And we really hope that these will reinvigorate conversations about usage and help to provide transparency into the nuances of really how this whole landscape is changing, specifically around digital and programmatic advertising, which has shifted the whole conversation in the last, well, honestly, number of years, but for us, we've been tackling it in the last few months. That will come, we hope soon. So programming and events are set to be growing in the next year as we look forward. Happy Hour will pick back up in a couple of weeks. We have one coming up in early LA as well. And we are really excited to be partnering with North 6 on a speaker series that will kick off in the fall. And more will come on that in the next, I would say, month or so. As I mentioned, coming up, and this will be on the 26th of September, we have a roundtable webinar to really review in depth the resources and the tools that we've added to the website. And we'll spend time really going through the website and explaining where these things live and what's shifted. So if you, this is, many of these resources are available to members and partners only. So if you're not a member, this is a good time to join. So you will have full access to that. Some things like the usage section, we are intentionally making available to everyone because we feel that's really important for the industry beyond our membership to have access to, and so that we're all speaking the same language and using the same kind of guiding principles as we consider how to change the way we estimate and even talk about usage. So that one is for everyone, but the roundtable on the 26th is going to go in depth on everything. So we also have board elections coming up. So if you have an interest, we really encourage you to run for a seat on the board. Being on the board for me has been far more rewarding than I could have expected when I first signed on to this. And I think I speak for all of the board members in really encouraging all of you to think about it. The more of you who step up and get involved, the more we will be able to do. It's a one-year commitment, although to be honest, that year in the terms of what can get done is goes quickly. So many of us are sticking around, are staying involved. Board seats are available to agency owners and agents. And it's really important to keep this organization filled with new voices. So the more of you who join or consider joining, the better. If you can't join the board, if that's not an option for whatever reason, you can also consider joining a committee. We have 4 active committees, and each of these committees needs help. We are essentially a volunteer organization, and we're growing. And again, like with one full-time employee, thank you, Jen, she works tirelessly to keep this thing in the shape that we are in, but we really rely on members to push us forward and to actually activate all the initiatives that are put forth by the membership. So please consider joining a committee. And if there's something that is interesting to you that is not an existing committee, we're very open to growing the list here. So please reach out. In looking at the year ahead, we have a number of ongoing initiatives. One of those that I think is interesting to us on the board, but even at the really, I think actually nationally, is AI, which increasingly dominates conversations. And in July, we signed on to the Human Artistry Campaign, which, if you're not aware of it, is an organization that's interesting to look at. They are DC based. And by signing on to the campaign, it will give us really direct insights into national and local conversations that are happening around AI, some of which are broader than our industry, but by being part of this, this campaign, it allows us to have a voice in the legislation that is being drafted. And that is really happening now. So again, and not to be too preachy, but joining and becoming a member gives you access to that, and you can be directly influencing the conversations we have with the Human Artistry Campaign, which in turn will be affecting the legislation. We are also actively pursuing sales tax exemption status for non-moving image productions, which I think all of us would applaud when we can finally make that happen. And we will continue to follow the New York Fashion Workers Act as the next legislative session approaches to make sure that things do not devolve from where they are now. Again, if you have suggestions on anything that you think should be an initiative we tackle, please let us know. Some future or additional goals for the year and things that we have a lot of focus on, specifically are increasing our membership overseas. So we are targeting at this point London and Paris as agencies there. Those are major hubs for us, for our industry. And we again, if you have branches of your offices of your businesses there and you want to help us to do that, we would be really open and appreciative of that assistance. But we're talking to a number of agencies in both cities about how we can better serve them and how we can expand our resources to them. The website remains really central to our community, and we will continue to expand it. We will always be adding new resources and guidance to our members. And if there are specific resources or issues or anything you see on the website, please let us know. We would be happy to hear about it and see what we can do. And as our influence and engagement in the industry intensifies, we really, really are going to push our mission to champion the best practices and to really uphold the standards that define us. And that's a lot of why we put so much effort into the usage section and a lot of our other resources, so that we can present just clear best practices for everybody. And it, of course, as always, does not mean that that has to be your way of working, but we are putting out there what we feel represents the best way for our industry to grow moving forward. If you have ideas, please join a committee, get involved, and let us know. So just a quick look at our operating budget. The majority of our funds do go to employees and legal fees, which are really, really, that is money very well spent to keep the AMA running and growing. And, you know, we spent the first 2 years without a full-time employee, and it was a game changer when Jen came on board. And it really has allowed us to keep up with the growth of the organization, the communication, the questions. You know, every email that is received is responded to, whether it's immediately or as we can get to it, depending on the urgency. We take it very seriously. And that is a huge expense and a very worthwhile expense. The other fees, I think, are pretty nominal and in line with what many of you probably expect running a business. I just have to say again, and I've said this, that the organization is for you, is for the industry and for our community. We would not be an organization without membership and without the support. And this year really highlighted the significance of a collective effort. I think our support for North 6th and their lawsuit and our success in Albany with the New York Fashion Workers Act are really proof of what can be achieved when we come together as an industry. And it is your active involvement that makes this happen. Your feedback and ideas will continue to be instrumental in allowing us to grow and become an even more pivotal voice in the industry as, you know, as AI takes over, as other things shift and budgets change, and we need to be here to do the best that we can to represent the artists so that we can then do our jobs. Please spread the word about the AMA to your colleagues. If you know agents, if you have friends who are not members, please encourage them to join. I sound a little like a broken record, but that's what is going to be most important for us to continue to grow. And that's very quickly, I guess I went through that, but thank you to the board of directors, all of them who work really hard. And yeah, I think if there are some questions have come in, we can maybe take a stab at that.
Yeah, and thank you to Vanessa, our president and fearless leader. An incredible amount of work in pulling all of this information together to share with everybody. Really tireless effort to get eyes on all of the parts of this industry that, you know, we feel we should be focusing on to better serve our members. So it's great.
Someone did ask a question about the tax exempt status and how that will work. And that is part of, we're figuring that out. But I think the idea is to model what is the status that is currently held by Moving Image Productions. And it seems a logical step for us to be able to have that same status. It's not an easy one to answer, it turns out, but we have a number of people working on it in various states, and we're going to see how we can make that happen. I know I went through a lot and I did really quickly, so apologies if that was quick, but if anybody does have questions, we're happy
Lauren is asking, is there any support, legal or otherwise, in London and Paris? We would definitely be interested.
Yeah, so we have, we've been talking to a few people who exactly in your situation, who we think can help us to basically identify what the needs are first. So if you have specific requests, if there are things that you feel are most pressing, let us know and we can start to tackle that. There are obviously differences in the way that business is done in each of those countries. And so it's not an apples to apples sort of path that we have. We have some work to do, but it's really important that we are speaking the same language across all these cities. So please let us know what would be most important and we can put that at the top of the list. All right.
Stacy's recruiting for the events committee, y'all.
Yeah, smart, very smart, Stacy. Yeah. In fact, anybody that wants to step into one of the committees that Vanessa mentioned, please just put your name in the chat and we'll circle back to tell you more about that committee. You know, it's different voices make us stronger, obviously. So it's so great when people step up and yeah, we'd love that.
And we have like very lofty, more and more future goals, as Stacey's mentioning, that we do want to establish awards and a gala, but all of that takes bodies and funding. So I think that, you know, looking at some of our sister organizations, the AICP has done an incredible job of establishing a really well-respected awards sort of programming situation. I mean, they've been in existence since the 70s, so they've got a leg up on us, but that is something we would love to be able to do, to acknowledge the work that our artists do, that our agencies do, that our members do. So if anyone has the drive to get that going, we welcome that support. And I think that there was...
I was just going to say, I think what's so interesting also about the AICP awards and galas is how important it is to our clients and how they come and they participate definitely in New York in AICP week, and they have incredibly informative programming that is both for their membership as well as for clients, and it creates that opportunity, that promotional networking opportunity. And that's really what we're looking to do in terms of the happy hours and the other events that we host. And as Vanessa said, you know, you saw that list of board of directors. That's really everyone who's running this organization. So let's continue to grow it and have you participate so that we can continue to create these networking opportunities with our clients as well.
And we're very focused right now, just based on where our membership is, on New York and LA. And I think the more cities we represent, the more we have the ability to expand events and programming specific to those locations. So again, the bigger we are, we can have chapters. Well, I know we had an hour, but I guess we will be back in a couple of weeks to go through all of these resources in a lot more detail. A lot of that is being rolled out. So if you go to the website now, you'll see bits and pieces are being implemented. But as we are really careful to be in compliant with all antitrust laws, everything was run by lawyers before it's updated, and that always takes a little longer than one hopes. So some of that is just trickling in with approvals now, and we will be putting that forth. Yeah, and I think that Stacey has a good point that there are constantly new agencies being formed. So we have a pretty robust target member list, but if you're starting a new agency, if you know of a new agency, please send them our way and send us their way as well, and let them know that we're here. Especially, I think there's often the sort of obvious need that if you're a new agency, that there's a lot of benefit to the AMA. But I think for those of us who've had our agencies for a long time and maybe get sort of stuck in certain ways of doing business or just unaware of changes, it's also really helpful. So even really established agencies have a value in being part of this organization.
Yeah, I can speak to that because I mean, Kelly like blew my mind so many times, and I'm like, okay, well, old dog, definitely new tricks. So absolutely, this is an organization for everybody. And there's always room to learn, and all boats rise.
I think one of the things too, I would say is right now, like, we are putting together the estimate job description checklist, which are things for people to think through. And there have been members that have emailed us with really wonderful language that they, through unfortunate circumstances, realized that they needed to make clear on their estimates. And because of the hard lessons they've learned, we're going to be putting together this document that can be helpful for you to think through, and if appropriate, add to your estimates. If any of you have found yourself in that situation where you had some great learning that you could pass on to us for estimating, whether it's language that you're adding to your descriptors about not training image models with the library archive, or overtime for crew, anything that you can think of that would be a resource, that is where we can learn more from one another. So we're welcome to that help right now.
Yeah, and that does remind me of one of the things that I think is kind of hidden in there in what I've reviewed, but in the HR and operations section that we will be adding is a resource for how to talk to your artists about they themselves remaining compliant and holding proper insurance and setting themselves up for success. And those are things that I think in the past, many of us were less concerned about. I mean, I know I was, it wasn't an issue for me. And the more the government kind of clamps down and becomes more interested in compliance post-COVID, the more important it is that everybody is really set up for success. And that has a lot to do with the way your artists operate. And it's often a hard conversation to have with an artist. So we're providing some language and some guidance about that, and to really why it's important to help you have those conversations.
Right on.
Yes, Beth, to your point, the usage is like a really important topic to many of us here as well. It's very, it's nuanced, but Chris Bowles has been very involved. Thank you, Chris, for being part of so many of those conversations with me, and just sort of starting to, you know, everyone is going to approach this differently, and everybody should, but if we all approach it with the same information, it makes our conversation stronger. So mostly what we're trying to do is arm you with things we know to now be the case, which many years ago simply were not. We did not have to contend with so many of the factors that we now have to contend with. And I think a lot of it is pretty opaque still, even to our clients. And so we're helping them understand that we understand what the conversation should really look like. And therefore we can all, you know, again, make sure our artists are being represented as well as they can be.
I think that might be it.
Well, this will be posted so everyone can take a look through the slides more at their leisure. Thank you all for joining today. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's been an amazing year. We've got a lot to appreciate you for.
Yeah, can't believe it's been a
You
year.
too, Kelly.
Oof. You too, Pat.
And Jen. Thank you, Jen.
And Jen.
Yeah.
All right, well, we hope to see many of you in a couple weeks and at Happy Hour New York. And please consider running for a board seat. We'd be happy to have you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.